Hi, I'm Michelle Begue with a look at what's happening in Latin America now. But first, our news trivia. Which Latin American president was diagnosed with COVID-19 for the third time? We'll have the answer later. In Paraguay, citizens elected a new president over the weekend. Santiago Peña from Paraguay's ruling Conservative Party beat out the center-left challenger in a single round of voting. Peña, a former minister of the economy, received more than 42% of the vote. The left coalition under candidate Efraín Alegre got 28%. The Colorado Party has been ruling Paraguay for almost 8 decades, with the exception of President Fernando Lugo in 2008. In this election, the center-left challenger Alegre had rallied against what many say is endemic institutional corruption within the Colorado Party. In his acceptance speech, Peña called for nationwide unity and consensus after years of economic stagnation and a fiscal deficit. Peru's government has sent its military to the country's border with Chile. The government is reinforcing checkpoints and blocking the entry of undocumented migrants who are exiting Chile. Hundreds of migrants were living in Chile until the country tightened migration controls. Now they're living in limbo as they're forced to depart the country but are not able to find refuge in Peru.
Michelle, hundreds of migrants have been stranded on the border between Peru and Chile for more than 20 days. Many of them are Venezuelans who say they want to travel on foot through Peru, bound for their home in Venezuela. But the Peruvian authorities have refused them entry in a tightening of immigration policy. The government declared a state of emergency on its borders last week and deployed hundreds of soldiers to support the police. Many of the migrants are travelling with small children and face searing heat during the day and intense cold at night as they camp in the Atacama Desert. In protest, some have laid on the ground on the Pan-American Highway, blocking the road between the two countries. The UN says there are more than 1.5 million Venezuelans in Peru, with a third of them seeking asylum.
Colombia's President Gustavo Petro is facing his most challenging political crisis since coming into power in August. Last week, he requested the resignation of his entire cabinet after facing obstacles implementing his left-wing reforms. On Monday, Petro swore in 10 new ministers, but perhaps the biggest news came from his latest speech on Labor Day from a balcony at the presidential palace. Petro said attempts to restrict his social reforms could lead to a revolution. The comment ignited a strong reaction from many in the opposition party, as Petro is a former left-wing guerrilla. And let's take a look at what stories we're following for next week. First, Brazil's government is ramping up police efforts to stop illegal mining. Recent violent clashes on the land of the Yanomami indigenous in the Amazon have left one indigenous man and at least 4 miners dead. The Minister of the Environment says the state will not back down in its fight against criminal groups in this region. President Lula has made it his mission to crack down on deforestation in the Amazon. Second, in Costa Rica, we're following a story about how sloths are helping scientists. The slow-moving animal that resembles a monkey has shown to have antibiotic-producing bacteria in its fur. These bacteria keep pathogens at bay that could make the animal sick. Scientists at the University of Costa Rica are experimenting to see if this discovery could be used to help humans. And now the answer to our news trivia. The answer is C. The president of Mexico announced he was infected with COVID-19 for the third time since the start of the pandemic. Andrés Manuel López Obrador admitted he fainted when his blood pressure fell during a meeting in Mérida more than a week ago. He was on tour of the Yucatan Peninsula. Since then, Obrador says he has made a full recovery after taking isolation measures. That's it for this week. We'll see you again soon on Latin America Now.